And it made sense. Well, no wonder they suddenly turned against us and attacked us, because spirits can impersonate any person who ever lived. They were masquerading as our relatives and pretending to be them. Just, they were imposters, basically. Everything involved in the occult, I burned it, or destroyed it in other ways, and just repented of it. Obviously needed to ask Christ to forgive me for that, cleanse me for that, have deliverance ministry for it, just have the whole past wiped out. It was easy to throw everything out and destroy everything, because when you suddenly realise these spirits are demons and evil spirits, you don't want anything to do with it. So it was easy to clear everything out, but the thought processes, the memories, the deliverance was more of a process, and that doesn't happen overnight. But with Christ you do walk through that, and he does lead you through that. If anyone has dabbled in these things, you really do need specific prayer for that to be totally set free from it. Absolutely. I think it'd be quite difficult to continue your Christian life without having that all dealt with and totally be set free from it, to really be able to grow and mature as a Christian.
Mike Mandel is a Canadian entertainer and lecturer. For many years he was involved in various aspects of the occult, including spirit mediumship. Dozens of entities would speak through him on an ongoing basis.
I became involved in what is now known as channeling in the late 1960s.
All right. Greetings, dear ones.
Yes, hello, dear.
May the peace of the Great Spirit be with you always. So let us begin with the discussion.
It was a spontaneous experience. We had been trying astral travel and a group of other techniques to let our spirits leave our bodies, to develop clairvoyant abilities, and so on. And when I say we, I mean a small group of us that had polarized together around an occult worldview. By trying these different techniques, I inadvertently opened myself up, and various entities began speaking through me. Initially speaking in my head, and then eventually taking over to such a degree they were using my vocal cords and speaking through me to our friends.
Mike could literally be talking to you as I'm talking to you now, and instantly, in a moment, change and be taken over, and someone else would be talking. And his voice would literally stop being Mike and all of a sudden be somebody else.
Initially, it seemed to take them quite a bit of effort to take control of me. And it was more or less a voluntary thing. But as time passed, I realized that it was getting much, much easier for them to slip in and out. We used to call it someone popping in. We'd say, oh, so-and-so just popped in when you were gone. And they would appear sometimes for hours, sometimes for just a few minutes. And then we realized eventually that they were able to go in and out as they pleased by the end of things. And we asked one of the entities, someone asked on my behalf and said, why is it that you can get in and out of Mike's personality so readily? And they said something to the effect of, all human beings have a door that will keep other spirit beings out. And in most people's cases, the door is locked and barred and stapled shut and roped shut and sealed. And they said in my case, it was virtually hanging off the hinges.
The first time I ever talked to Tobias was on an airplane in 1997, and I wasn't particularly spiritual or metaphysical. I was in the business world at the time, and Tobias came in on this plane flight and started talking, and hasn't stopped since. But initially, it was just me talking to Tobias. I hadn't even told Linda about it.
And how long did it take you before you broke it to Linda that this
it was about a year.
So you kept it to yourself for a year?
Yeah.
I received what felt like, what I experienced to be a telepathic contact from Bashar and his people. In that moment of the telepathic contact, a memory actually came back of having made an agreement somewhere prior to this life to do this.
I grew up in a Roman Catholic family of Sicilian immigrants. Most of them even today, after I've been channeling Joseph for 15 years, don't know what I do. They have some idea, because I don't talk about it to them, and they don't ask me. They know I do something weird.
I was very lucky. I had a lot of support. My friends were very accepting. And that's one thing that I've always been really open about. I didn't really hide it, even from employers, you know. And I've always felt it was really important for me to be honest about that, because I saw how it impacted people. I started in a class where we were really studying making a bridge, an interpsychic bridge to other sources of intelligence. And so it started in the context of that class.
See, I thought that all of these esoteric things were for older women over 40, and it would have nothing to do with men. So I was dragged to these two guys who channeled for me, and there was something, this was 3 years apart, they both told me the same thing. And that is when I had to start looking at how could guys 20 years apart in age, 3 years apart in ID, who never knew each other, give me information that was identical. And the information just happened to be that there was a master named Cryon who I was supposed to get a hold of.
He says the grain plane, the master's grain plane, for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. So we continued, you know, after we expressed ourselves that we're deeply interested to know more about the activities of spirits. And he said it's going to be done in a unique manner. This grain plane is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because he says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet, unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it. Due to the fact that the millions of the Earth people believe in people having an immortal soul, this is readily accepted. When the spirits will, through a trance medium, converse with influential people, the language.
Now, what is a trance medium?
It's a channeler today.
What is known today as a channeler?
Channeler, yeah, okay. Shirley MacLaine's experience of getting involved with spiritism and with the supposed inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies. I taped the whole thing in 3 hours.
And you were hearing the fulfillment of what this high priest had said 45 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So he went on explaining about the fact that the spirits will show themselves willing to give valuable guidance that will not only help people avoid the destruction of the planet, but it would cause them to enter into a higher state of existence. For instance, he said the spirits will promise, this is a big word, promise, that if their recommendations are followed carefully, they will usher in a glorious new age of peace and prosperity, and there'll be there'll be no more wars. See, there'll be no more famines. There'll be no more people getting unhappy with one another. Neighbors will love neighbor, and social unrest will not take place no more.
An arrangement, so to speak, was made prior to the physical life of the channel within what you would call the oversoul of the channel, of which I am also a part. We are part of the same soul. You might refer to me as the channel's future self, and incarnationally speaking, I would look at the channel as my past self, just to put it in linear terms.
We are not happy with the way that things exist currently in our reality. All right, we are from what you would perceive to be the future. And we have come back to our past so that we may learn, all right, and so that we may assist the planet, because what's going on now is going to impact the entire universe.
Well, we would prefer that you ask us, if you like. There's nothing in particular we would like to say, except that we're here, and it's very, very pleasant to be here. It's a delight. It's part of sharing, with the big S, if you might say. The archetype of sharing is something we enjoy embodying.
I've had many, many lifetimes on Earth. I have deep love and compassion for humans because I remember what it was like to go through the things that humans are going through now. I remember the challenge in particular, the challenge of knowing at some deep level that you are a spiritual being.
Our goal is simply to help people live a more joyful, abundant life. And whatever it takes to achieve that, we're willing to do. So that, in a nutshell, if you will, is our work.
You sit in the energy of a great shift. Many of you are feeling it. Maybe that's why you're watching this now. Maybe there's something that has happened in your life that would allow you for a moment just to open your mind and look inside something you always thought was untenable before, only reserved for those on the lunatic fringe before. And here you find instead wisdom pouring out. Perhaps you'll even feel the love of God pouring out.
There's a lot of things that are being transmuted and altered at this time. All right? You're finding some things out about some of your religious leaders. You're finding some things out about religion that just isn't holding true to you. It's not ringing true to you anymore.
Well, we want to tell you this, is that there is so much here that is hiding. But you must feel it. There has been such a shift in these last years, especially in the last 20 or so.
You're remembering who and what you are, and it doesn't need an intermediary.
This changeover from the old religious system that so many of you are familiar with is difficult, very difficult, because it holds on tightly. Those who have such a strong concept of God as some higher authority and is the only creator, they want to hang on to that dearly. They fear letting God go, their old God, you see, because they are so out of touch with themselves they can't possibly even contemplate what it's like to have to go inside.
They claimed to be distinctive entities. In other words, if they had a name, they would say their name. If they had a purpose or a distinctive, they would tell you that in many cases. But the range would range from very, what we call, low-level life forms that really didn't seem to have any purpose except to be pranksters, that sort of thing, on up to through the sort of human range, right on up to the what you call ascended masters, the wise, benevolent, powerful type entities, and the antithesis of that, the evil, powerful, intelligent entities as well.
They claim to be ascended masters, highly advanced spirit beings even on other planets, people on various astral planes who had reincarnated and then gone on to perfection, Tibetan Buddhists, people from the past. I mean, there was an entire realm of things that they called themselves. However, the common thread was they were all spiritually pure and were contacting our little group specifically to help us evolve spiritually. There's no question in my mind now that they were demon spirits.
Warder often witnessed strange occurrences. He feared the darker controlling entities, one of whom regularly threatened him with knives. Still, he was fascinated by the spirit's powers.
One evening when I was over at Mike's place, we were just sitting talking when all of a sudden one of the entities popped in and became visibly angry with, I think, primarily myself, and began ranting and raving. I can't remember the exact words he was saying, but he